Hello, everyone. Tonight, we are embarking on a journey into the mysterious world of sleep, a world that, for many of us, is far more treacherous than we realize. Picture this. You're lying in bed. The clock ticks past midnight, and you're tossing and turning, your mind racing with thoughts of yesterday's regrets and tomorrow's worries. Maybe you finally drift off, only to wake again at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if you'll ever feel rested again. It's a scene so common, it's almost a cliche. But here's the bold truth. You might not survive these nights as unscathed as you think. The habits you practice in the dark could be quietly stealing years from your life, up to a decade. In fact, if you're not careful, and if you're over 70, the odds are stacked even higher against you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I'm always curious to see who's awake with me in the small hours. Now, turn off the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for a soft noise. And let's begin our journey tonight. Let's start with a little self-assessment. I want you to count on your fingers. Do you take more than 30 minutes to fall asleep? Do you wake up 3 or more times each night? Do you feel tired even after a full night in bed? If you answered yes to 2 or more, you're not alone, and you're exactly who I'm talking to tonight. I've spent over 6 decades as a physician, and I can tell you, the silent epidemic of poor sleep is everywhere. It's not just about feeling groggy in the morning. It's about your heart, your brain, your very lifespan. I've seen patients who, after years of restless nights, found themselves facing high blood pressure, memory loss, and a parade of pills that never seemed to end. Here's a piece of wisdom I learned from an old patient, Mrs. Kim, who once told me, "Doctor, I'd trade all my medicine for one good night's sleep." She was right. Sleep is the body's original medicine, the one we're all born with, and the one we so often neglect. But here's the strange part. In our modern world, we treat sleep like an afterthought, something to squeeze in between late-night TV and early morning alarms. We act as if we can cheat nature, as if the rules don't apply to us. But nature always wins, doesn't she? There's an ongoing debate in the academic world about just how much sleep is enough, especially as we age. Some experts argue that older adults simply need less sleep, while others insist that the need remains the same. But our ability to achieve deep, restorative rest declines. The truth, as always, is more nuanced. What's clear is that the quality of your sleep matters just as much as the quantity. And for those of us in our golden years, the stakes are even higher. Let me share a marginal fact that might surprise you. In a recent study, researchers found that older adults who consistently slept poorly had a 7-year shorter lifespan than their well-rested peers. 7 years. That's enough time to see a grandchild graduate, to travel somewhere new, or to simply enjoy more mornings with a cup of tea and the sunrise. Are you willing to give that up for another episode of late night news or a few more minutes scrolling on your phone? Tonight, I want you to imagine your bedroom as a sanctuary, a place where healing happens, where your body repairs itself, and your mind lets go of the day's burdens. I want you to see sleep not as a luxury, but as a necessity, one that you can reclaim, starting tonight. And yes, I'll be sharing the exact steps you need to take, the same ones that have helped my patients, my own mother, and even myself, well into my 90s. But before we get there, let's acknowledge the elephant in the room. Most of us are doing it wrong. We ignore our body's signals. We cling to old habits, and we wonder why we feel so tired. It's time to change that. It's time to listen to the wisdom of our bodies, to the rhythms that have guided humans for millennia. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to put down the remote and pick up a new routine. So, as you settle in, remember, tonight isn't just about sleep. It's about reclaiming your health, your energy, and your future. And if you're still awake at the end of this, well, at least you'll have some new tricks to try tomorrow night. Let's move deeper into the night, where the real magic and the real danger of sleep unfolds. I have spent more than 60 years in the white coat, and if there's one lesson that has been hammered into me by thousands of patients, it's this: sleep is more powerful than any medicine I can prescribe. I know, it sounds almost heretical coming from a doctor, but it's the truth. I've watched people chase after the latest pills, the most expensive supplements, and the trendiest health gadgets, all while ignoring the one thing that could truly change their lives: a good night's rest. Let me tell you about my own mother. She was 75 when insomnia hit her like a freight train. She'd sleep for maybe 2 hours, then spend the rest of the night wandering the house, exhausted and frustrated. Other doctors told her, "That's just old age. Here, take this pill." But I couldn't accept that. I dove into the research, experimented with routines, and, after months of trial and error, found a set of habits that transformed her nights. Now, at 83, she wakes up at dawn, does her morning stretches, and hasn't touched a sleeping pill in years. If you're wondering, yes, I use the same methods myself. At 91, I'm still up at 5, seeing patients, and I haven't needed a single prescription for sleep. Here's a bit of wisdom I picked up from an old friend, Dr. Park, who used to say, "The best medicine is the one you don't have to take." He was right. When you sleep well, your body repairs itself, your blood pressure stabilizes, your immune system gets a boost, and your brain clears out the toxic waste that builds up during the day. It's like a nightly tune-up for your entire system. And yet, so many people treat sleep as optional, as if it's something you can skip and make up for later. Spoiler alert, you can't. Now, here's a strange fact that always gets a reaction at dinner parties. During deep sleep, your brain actually shrinks a little, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to wash away metabolic waste. It's like your brain is taking a shower while you dream. Miss out on that deep sleep, and you're left with a brain that's, well, a little grimy. No wonder memory and focus start to slip. Of course, There's a lively debate in the medical community about whether sleep can truly replace medication for chronic conditions like hypertension or diabetes. Some say it's wishful thinking. Others point to studies showing that improved sleep can reduce the need for multiple medications. I've seen it firsthand. Patients who, after fixing their sleep, were able to cut back on their blood pressure meds or even stop them entirely under supervision. It's not magic, it's biology. But let's not get too serious. I once had a patient, Mr. Lee, who insisted that his nightly glass of whiskey was the secret to his longevity. "It's medicinal, Doc," he'd say, winking. I'd smile and remind him that while a little ritual can be comforting, alcohol actually disrupts deep sleep. He didn't believe me until he tried a week without it and woke up feeling like he'd discovered the fountain of youth. Sometimes, the hardest part is letting go of the little habits we think are helping us. Here's the bottom line. Sleep is not just about feeling rested. It's about giving your body the chance to heal, to grow stronger, and to fight off the diseases that come knocking as we age. I've seen patients in their 70s and 80s who, after years of poor sleep, looked and felt a decade older than their peers. But I've also seen the reverse. People who, by prioritizing sleep, seem to turn back the clock. Let me share a marginal tidbit. In some cultures, sleep is so revered that there are entire festivals dedicated to napping. In Spain, for example, the siesta is practically a national treasure. In Japan, inamuri, sleeping on the job, is seen as a sign of dedication. Meanwhile, in the West, we brag about how little sleep we get, as if exhaustion is a badge of honor. Maybe it's time we rethink our priorities. So, if you're still with me, I want you to ask yourself, are you willing to trade a few hours of late-night television for years of better health? Are you ready to see sleep as the most important medicine in your cabinet? Because, trust me, no pill can replace what happens when you close your eyes and let your body do what it was designed to do. And if you're skeptical, that's okay. There's still a lot we don't know about sleep. Scientists are still arguing about the best ways to measure sleep quality, the ideal number of hours, and the long-term effects of sleep deprivation. But one thing is clear. Those who sleep well live longer, healthier, and happier lives. So tonight, as you settle into bed, remember, you have the power to change your health, one night at a time. And if you need a little extra motivation, just imagine your brain taking a nice, refreshing shower while you dream. Who wouldn't want to wake up sparkling clean? Let's drift a little further into the night and confront one of the most persistent myths about aging. The idea that as we grow older, we simply need less sleep. You've probably heard it from friends, family, maybe even your own doctor. Don't worry. It's normal for older people to sleep less. But is it really? Or is this just another bedtime story we tell ourselves to make sense of restless nights and early mornings? I remember a conversation with a spry 80-year-old patient, Mrs. Choi, who told me, "Doctor, I guess I'm just too old to sleep like I used to." She said it with a resigned shrug, as if her body had betrayed her. But here's the wisdom I shared with her, and now with you. Your need for sleep doesn't vanish with age. What changes is your body's internal clock, your circadian rhythm, and how it signals when to sleep and wake. Let's get a little technical, but I promise to keep it gentle. Deep inside your brain is a tiny cluster of cells called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. It's your master clock, orchestrating the release of hormones like melatonin, which tells your body it's time to wind down. As we age, this clock shifts forward. If you were a night owl in your 40s, you might find yourself getting sleepy at 8:30 or 9 o'clock p.m. in your 70s. The problem? Most people ignore these new signals, clinging to old habits, late night TV, scrolling through their phones, or finishing just one more chapter of a book. Here's a strange but true fact. By the time you hit 70, your body produces about half as much melatonin as it did in your 20s. Not only that, but the timing of this hormone's release creeps earlier in the evening. If you miss this melatonin window, you might find yourself lying awake, frustrated, as your body's natural sleep drive fades away. It's like missing the last bus home and being stuck at the station until morning. There's a lively debate among sleep researchers about whether these changes are inevitable or if they're partly a result of our modern lifestyles. Some argue that artificial light, late-night eating, and constant stimulation have thrown our natural rhythms into chaos. Others believe it's simply biology, an ancient adaptation to help elders keep watch over the tribe. Either way, the result is the same. Many older adults are out of sync with their own bodies. Let me share a bit of marginal wisdom from the animal kingdom. Did you know that elephants, some of the largest and oldest living land mammals, sleep only about 2 hours a night in the wild, yet they seem to thrive? Of course, we humans are not elephants, though I have felt like one after a particularly bad night's sleep. The point is, sleep needs are deeply individual, but the quality of rest matters more than the quantity alone. Back to Mrs. Choi. Once she understood that her body was asking for an earlier bedtime, she agreed to try shifting her routine. Instead of fighting her natural drowsiness, she started winding down at 8:30, turning off screens, and reading by a soft lamp. Within a week, she was falling asleep faster, waking up less. And here's the kicker. Her morning headaches disappeared. She even joked, "I feel like I've joined a secret club for early birds." But let's not pretend it's always easy. There's a certain stubbornness that comes with age, a reluctance to change routines that have been with us for decades. I get it. I once tried to convince my uncle to stop watching late-night baseball games. He looked at me as if I'd suggested he give up breathing. "That's my me time," he protested. We compromised. He recorded the games and watched them the next afternoon, popcorn and all. Sometimes, a little flexibility goes a long way. Here's a public debate point for you to ponder. Should society do more to accommodate the changing sleep patterns of older adults? Imagine if community centers offered early evening activities, or if TV networks scheduled popular shows before 9 p.m. Would we see a healthier, happier senior population? Or is it up to each of us to adapt, one bedtime at a time? And now, a little joke to lighten the mood. Why did the old man put his alarm clock in the freezer? Because he wanted to wake up chilled out I promise, the jokes get better as the night goes on. Or maybe they just seem funnier when you're sleepy. So, as you lie in bed tonight, ask yourself, are you listening to your body's new rhythms? Or are you fighting against them? Are you willing to experiment, to shift your habits, and maybe even join the secret club of early sleepers? Remember, it's not about giving up your independence. It's about reclaiming your nights, one gentle adjustment at a time. And if you're still awake, don't don't worry. We're just getting started. The best is yet to come, and your most restful nights may be just around the corner. Now, let's slip quietly into the most precious part of the night, the golden hour for rest. This is the secret window, the prime time for sleep that most people, especially those over 70, never realize they're missing. I call it the golden bedtime, and it's not just a catchy phrase. It's a scientifically backed, life-extending, memory-saving, blood pressure-lowering slice of the evening that could change everything for you. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine your body as a grand old theater. The curtains are drawn, the lights dim, and the orchestra of hormones begins to play. Melatonin, the star of the show, takes center stage between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock p.m. for most older adults. If you're in your 70s or beyond, this is when your body is practically begging you to go to bed. Ignore this cue, and you risk missing the main act, deep, restorative sleep. I learned this lesson the hard way with a patient named Mr. Kim, a retired school principal who prided himself on his late-night reading habit for decades. He'd stay up past midnight, convinced that old dogs don't need as much sleep. But after turning 70, he found himself wide awake at 3 a.m., unable to fall back asleep, and dragging through the day. When I suggested he try going to bed at 9:30, he looked at me as if I'd asked him to eat dinner at noon. But after just 2 weeks of honoring his new golden hour, he was sleeping through the night. His blood pressure dropped, and he even started remembering where he left his glasses. Here's a strange tidbit. In a study of centenarians from Japan's Okinawa region, researchers found that over 90% of those who lived past 100 went to bed before 10 p.m. and woke up with the sun. Coincidence? I think not. There's something about aligning your sleep with the natural rhythms of light and darkness that seems to unlock a hidden reserve of vitality. Of course, there's a spirited debate among sleep scientists about whether the best bedtime is universal or should be tailored to each individual. Some argue that genetics play a role. Are you a lark or an owl? While others insist that, especially in later life, the body's melatonin surge is the most reliable guide. My own experience, and the experience of hundreds of patients, tells me that for most people over 70, the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. window is pure gold. Let's not forget the wisdom of the world's oldest people. In the so-called blue zones, those rare pockets of the globe where people routinely live into their 90s and beyond, early bedtimes are the norm. In Sardinia, Italy, elders gather for a light meal and conversation, then retire before the clock strikes 10. In Korea, Greece, the evening is for herbal tea and quiet reflection, not for television or scrolling through endless news feeds. These communities treat sleep as a sacred ritual, not a chore to be squeezed in between other obligations. But let's be honest, changing your bedtime isn't always easy. There's a certain romance to the late night hours, a sense of freedom when the world is quiet and everyone else is asleep. I get it. I used to love those midnight hours myself, when the house was still and my thoughts could wander. But as I grew older, I realized that the price of those hours was too high. Groggy mornings, foggy memory, and a body that felt older than its years. Here's a little joke to keep things light. Why did the old lady bring a ladder to bed? Because she heard the best dreams are at the top. Okay, maybe that one's a stretch, but you get the idea. Now, let's talk about the practical side. If you want to catch the golden hour, you need to start winding down early. Dim the lights after dinner, turn off screens by 8 o'clock, and create a gentle routine that signals to your body that it's time to rest. Maybe it's a warm bath, a cup of chamomile tea, or a few pages of a favorite book. The key is consistency. Your body loves routine, especially as you age. Here's a marginal fact. In some Scandinavian countries, it's common for older adults to use special lamps that mimic the sunset, gradually dimming over an hour to help trigger melatonin release. It's a simple trick, but it works wonders for those who struggle to fall asleep naturally. And here's a point for public debate. Should retirement communities and elder care facilities be redesigned to support earlier bedtimes and natural light exposure? Imagine a world where architecture and daily schedules are built around the rhythms of the human body, not the demands of television programming or institutional convenience. Would we see a revolution in elder health? Or would people rebel against the loss of their late-night freedoms? As you consider your own routine, remember, the golden hour isn't about giving up your independence. It's about giving yourself the best possible chance at a long, healthy, and vibrant life. It's about honoring the wisdom of your body and maybe even outsmarting Father Time for a few more years. So, tonight, as the clock approaches 9, ask yourself, are you ready to step into the golden hour? Are you willing to trade a little late-night freedom for a lot more energy, clarity, and joy in the morning? The choice, as always, is yours. Let's move from theory to practice, because knowing the golden hour is one thing, but actually getting deep, restorative sleep is another. Over the years, I've gathered 5 rituals that, when practiced consistently, can transform even the most restless nights into a sanctuary of rest. These aren't just my ideas. They're a blend of clinical wisdom, patient stories, and a dash of old-fashioned common sense. And yes, I've tested every one of them on myself, because if I'm going to recommend something, I'd better be willing to try it first. First, let's talk about exercise. You've heard it before, but timing is everything. I once had a patient, Mr. Park, who loved his evening walks right after dinner, just as the city lights flickered on, but he'd come home energized, not sleepy, and then toss and turn for hours. The fix? Move the walk to late morning or early afternoon. Exercise raises your core body temperature and gets your adrenaline pumping, which is great for your heart but terrible for your sleep if done too late. The sweet spot is at least 3 hours before bedtime. And if you're not a walker, try gentle stretching, tai chi, or even a bit of gardening. The goal is to move your body, not exhaust it. Second, let's address the glowing elephant in the room: screens. I know, I know. Your phone is your lifeline. Your TV is your window to the world, and your tablet is your favorite bedtime companion. But here's the hard truth: the blue light from these devices tells your brain it's still daytime, suppressing melatonin and making it harder to fall asleep. I once challenged a group of my patients to a screen-free hour before bed. The results? More than half reported falling asleep faster and waking up less during the night. If you absolutely must check your phone, at least use a blue light filter, or, better yet, switch to an old-fashioned book. Just don't blame me if you fall asleep with your glasses on. Here's a strange but true tidbit. In some parts of rural Italy, elders still gather in the evening to tell stories by candlelight. No screens, no distractions, just the soft glow of flame and the gentle rhythm of voices. It's a tradition that not only soothes the mind, but also signals to the body that it's time to wind down. Maybe it's time we all rediscovered the power of a good story. Third, let's talk about what you put in your body. Caffeine is a sneaky villain, especially as we age. Your body takes longer to process it. So that innocent cup of coffee at 2 p.m. could still be buzzing in your system at midnight. The same goes for tea, cola, and even chocolate. And don't get me started on alcohol. Yes, it might make you drowsy at first, but it fragments your sleep and robs you of the deep stages your brain craves. I once had a patient, Mrs. Lee, who swore by her nightly glass of wine. When she switched to herbal tea, her sleep improved so much that she started calling it her magic potion. And no, I don't get a commission from the tea companies. There's an ongoing debate among nutritionists about whether certain foods can actually promote sleep. Some swear by tart cherry juice, others by a handful of almonds. The science is still out. But here's my advice: keep your evening meals light. Avoid heavy or spicy foods, and listen to your body. If something consistently disrupts your sleep, it's probably not worth it. Fourth, create a bedtime ritual. Our bodies love routine, especially as we get older. I recommend starting your wind down at least an hour before bed. Dim the lights, take a warm shower, sip a cup of chamomile or mugwort tea, and do something calming. Read, knit, listen to soft music, or just sit quietly and breathe. The key is to send a clear signal to your brain: it's time to let go. I once had a patient who started writing down 3 things she was grateful for each night. She said it helped her leave the day's worries behind and drift off with a lighter heart. Here's a marginal fact. In some Scandinavian countries, people use sleep stones, smooth, warm rocks placed under the covers, to create a cozy, comforting sensation. It's a small thing, but sometimes the smallest comforts make the biggest difference. Fifth, make your bedroom a true sleep sanctuary. This means cool, dark, and quiet. The ideal temperature is around 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, with humidity between 40 and 60%. Invest in blackout curtains, a white noise machine, or even a simple fan to block out distractions. And please, keep the TV and computer out of the bedroom. Your bed should be for sleep, and Well, you know, other relaxing activities, not for catching up on the news or checking email. I once had a patient who moved her TV out of the bedroom and, within a week, was sleeping better than she had in years. She called to thank me, then admitted she'd replaced the TV with a stack of crossword puzzles. Hey, whatever works. Here's a debate point for you. Should we teach sleep hygiene in schools, just like we teach nutrition and exercise? Imagine a generation that grows up understanding the value of rest instead of treating it as an afterthought. Would we see fewer chronic illnesses, less anxiety, and more happiness? Or would teenagers just find new ways to stay up late? And Visas, of course, a little joke to end the section. Why did the pillow go to therapy? Because it couldn't handle all the pressure. I promise. That's the last one for tonight, unless you ask for more. So, as you prepare for bed tonight, remember, deep sleep isn't just a dream. With a few simple rituals, you can make it your nightly reality. And if you slip up now and then, don't worry. Even the best sleepers have restless nights. The key is to keep trying, keep adjusting, and never give up on the promise of a good night's rest. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, sleep simply refuses to come. You know the feeling. You followed all the advice, dimmed the lights, sipped your herbal tea, and yet you're lying there, wide awake, counting the cracks in the ceiling or the minutes ticking by on the clock. It's a universal frustration. And if you're over 70, it can feel like your body is playing a cruel joke on you. But don't despair. There are ways to outsmart even the most stubborn insomnia. And tonight, I'll share the strategies that have helped my patients and myself through countless restless nights. Let's start with the 20-minute rule. This is a simple but powerful technique. If you're not asleep within 20 minutes, don't just lie there stewing in frustration. Get up, leave the bedroom, and do something quiet and relaxing in dim light. Read a book, knit, or listen to soft music. The key is to avoid screens and bright lights, which will only wake you up more. When you start to feel sleepy, return to bed. This breaks the association between your bed and sleeplessness, retraining your brain to see your bedroom as a place for rest, not worry. I once had a patient, Mr. Hahn, who swore by this method. He'd get up, make a cup of warm milk, and do a crossword puzzle until his eyelids drooped. Within a month, his insomnia had all but vanished. Here's a bit of wisdom from my own experience. Sometimes, the harder you try to force sleep, the more elusive it becomes. It's like trying to catch a butterfly with a net. Chase it, and it flutters away. Sit quietly, and it might just land on your shoulder. So, if you find yourself wide awake, try to let go of the pressure to sleep. Remind yourself that rest, even without sleep, is still valuable. Your body is still healing. Your mind is still unwinding. Now, let's talk about breathing. The 4-7-8 technique is a favorite of mine, and it's as simple as it sounds. Breathe in through your nose for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 7, and exhale slowly through your mouth for 8. Repeat this cycle a few times, and you'll feel your heart rate slow, your muscles relax, and your mind begin to quiet. It's a trick I've used in hospital call rooms, on long flights, and even during stressful family gatherings. Yes, doctors have those too. Here's a strange but true tidbit. In some cultures, people use gentle humming or chanting to lull themselves to sleep. The vibrations are thought to calm the nervous system and distract the mind from anxious thoughts. I once tried humming a lullaby to myself. My cat was not impressed, but I did fall asleep faster. Of course, there's an ongoing debate among sleep experts about the best way to handle sleeplessness. Some advocate for strict routines and never deviating from your schedule, while others suggest a more flexible approach, allowing for naps or quiet rest when needed. My view? Listen to your body. If you're wide awake at 2 a.m., don't torture yourself. Get up, do something soothing, and trust that sleep will return when it's ready. Another tool in your arsenal: progressive muscle relaxation. Start at your toes. Tense each muscle group for 5 seconds, then release. Move up through your legs, hips, stomach, chest, arms, and face. By the time you reach your forehead, you'll feel like a puddle of relaxation. I once had a patient, Mrs. Yoon, who said this technique was better than any sleeping pill she'd ever tried. She even taught it to her grandchildren, who now use it before big exams. Let's not forget the power of writing things down. If your mind is racing with worries, tomorrow's appointments, family squabbles, or the existential dread of forgetting where you put your keys, grab a notebook and jot it all down. Promise yourself you'll deal with it in the morning. This simple act can free your mind to rest, knowing that nothing will be forgotten. Here's a marginal fact. In some monasteries, monks keep a worry jar by their beds. Before sleep, they write down their concerns, fold the paper, and drop it in the jar, symbolically letting go until morning. Maybe it's superstition. Maybe it's psychology. But it works for them. And it might work for you. Now, let's talk about natural sleep aids. I'm not a fan of prescription sleeping pills for long-term use, but there are gentle, time-tested remedies that can help. Chamomile, mugwort, and lavender are all known for their calming effects. A warm cup of herbal tea or a few drops of lavender oil on your pillow can make a world of difference. Just remember, what works for one person may not work for another. So, be willing to experiment. And what about naps? There's a heated debate about whether daytime napping helps or hinders nighttime sleep. My advice: if you need a nap, keep it short, 20 to 30 minutes, ideally before 3 p.m. A well-timed nap can boost your mood and energy without sabotaging your night. I once had a patient who called her afternoon nap her secret weapon. She'd set an alarm, close her eyes, and wake up refreshed, ready to tackle the rest of the day. A little joke to lighten the mood. Why did the insomniac bring a pencil to bed? In case he wanted to draw his dreams. I know. Don't quit my day job. So, the next time sleep won't come, remember, you have options. You're not powerless. With a few simple strategies, you can turn even the most stubborn night into an opportunity for rest, reflection, and maybe even a little self-discovery. And if all else fails, just remember, you're in good company. Even the best sleepers have sleepless nights now and then. Let's take a journey far beyond our own bedrooms, across oceans and continents, to the places where people live the longest, healthiest lives. These are the so-called blue zones: Okinawa in Japan, Sardinia in Italy, Ikaria in Greece, and a handful of others, where centenarians are as common as morning tea. What's their secret? Genetics play a role, sure, but if you look closely, you'll find that their sleep habits are as much a part of their longevity as their diets or social lives. Tonight, I want to share what I've learned from these remarkable communities and how you can borrow their wisdom for your own nights. Let's start in Okinawa, where the air is thick with the scent of sea salt and blooming flowers. Here, elders don't just live long, they live well, with sharp minds and strong bodies deep into their 90s and beyond. One of the first things you'll notice is their respect for the natural rhythms of day and night. Most Okinawan elders are in bed by 9 o'clock or 9:30 p.m., rising with the sun to tend their gardens or practice gentle exercises. I once met a 102-year-old woman who told me, "The morning is the best time for thinking. At night, I let my mind rest." There's wisdom in that simplicity. Here's a strange but true tidbit. In Ikaria, Greece, it's common for people to take a short nap after lunch, even into old age. This isn't laziness. It's a cultural tradition, and studies show it may reduce the risk of heart disease by up to 37%. Imagine that, a little afternoon snooze, and your heart thanks you for it. I once tried to introduce this idea to a group of my patients. Some were skeptical. "Isn't napping for children?" they asked. But after a few weeks, many reported feeling more alert and less irritable. One even joked, "I'm Greek now, doctor." Of course, there's an ongoing debate among researchers about whether these habits can be transplanted to other cultures. Is it the nap itself, or the slower pace of life that makes the difference? Some argue that the social fabric, close-knit families, regular communal meals, and a sense of purpose plays a bigger role than any single habit. But I believe it's all connected. When you live in harmony with your body's needs, everything else falls into place. Let's not forget Sardinia, where the hills are dotted with sheep and the evenings are filled with laughter. Here, elders gather for early dinners, share a glass of wine, and head to bed before 10 o'clock p.m. The next morning, they're up with the dawn, ready for another day of work or play. I once asked a Sardinian shepherd his secret to longevity. He shrugged and said, "Go to bed early, wake up early, and never eat alone." Simple, but profound. Here's a marginal fact. In some blue zones, people use herbal infusions as part of their nightly routine. In Ikaria, for example, elders drink teas made from wild herbs like sage, mint, and chamomile, plants known for their calming properties. There's even a local saying, "A cup of mountain tea keeps the doctor away." I've tried some of these teas myself, and while I can't promise immortality, I can vouch for their soothing effects. Now, let's talk about the role of light. In these long-lived communities, people spend much of their day outdoors, soaking up natural sunlight. This exposure helps regulate their circadian rhythms, making it easier to fall asleep at night. In contrast, many of us spend our days under artificial lights, glued to screens, and then wonder why we can't sleep Maybe it's time to take a cue from the world's oldest people and reconnect with the sun. There's a public debate point here. Should modern cities be redesigned to encourage more natural light and outdoor activity, especially for older adults? Imagine neighborhoods with walking paths, community gardens, and outdoor gathering spaces. Would we see a rise in health and happiness, or would people resist the change? It's a question worth pondering as we look for ways to bring a bit of blue zone magic into our own lives. And, of course, a little joke to keep things light. Why did the Greek grandmother bring a pillow to the olive grove? She wanted to take a nap under the olive branch of peace. I promise. That's the last geography joke for tonight. So, what can you take from the blue zones? Go to bed early. Wake up with the sun. Take a short nap if you need it. And spend time outdoors. Share meals and laughter with friends and family. Treat sleep as a sacred ritual, not a chore. And remember, longevity isn't just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. As you settle in tonight, imagine yourself in a quiet village, surrounded by friends, with the gentle sounds of nature lulling you to sleep. You don't have to move to Greece or Japan to enjoy the benefits of their wisdom. Just a few small changes can bring the spirit of the blue zones into your own home, and maybe, just maybe, help you live a longer, happier life. As we approach the end of our nighttime journey, let's gather up all the wisdom, science, and gentle humor we've shared and look ahead to what your future could be if you choose to honor your body's need for rest. I want you to imagine, just for a moment, a life where every night is a chance to heal, to grow stronger, and to wake up feeling truly alive. It's not a fantasy. It's a future you can build, one night at a time. Let's start with a little reflection. Think back to the questions I asked at the beginning. Do you struggle to fall asleep? Do you wake up often? Do you feel tired in the morning? No matter how long you've been in bed, if you recognized yourself in any of those, you're not alone. But you're also not powerless. The steps we've discussed tonight, embracing the golden hour, building healthy rituals, learning to handle sleeplessness, and borrowing from the world's longest-lived people, are all within your reach. Here's a piece of wisdom I've learned from my own long life. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. I've seen patients in their 80s and 90s transform their sleep, and with it, their health, their mood, and even their relationships. One of my favorite stories is of Mrs. Bwiny Park, who, after years of restless nights, finally decided to try going to bed at 9:30, just as we discussed. Within a month, her blood pressure improved, her memory sharpened, and she started every morning with a smile. She told me, "Doctor, I feel like I've gotten my life back." That's the power of sleep. Here's a strange but true tidbit. In some cultures, elders are celebrated for their wisdom about rest. In rural China, for example, it's common for grandparents to teach their grandchildren the art of napping and the importance of early bedtimes. Imagine a world where sleep is passed down as a family tradition, not just a medical prescription. Maybe that's a tradition we should revive. Of course, There's still debate in the academic world about the perfect sleep routine. Should you nap or not? Is it better to wake up with the sun or sleep in a little longer? Should you use herbal teas, meditation, or just good old-fashioned fresh air? The truth is, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The best routine is the one that works for you, one that leaves you feeling rested, alert, and ready to enjoy your days. Let's not forget the importance of community. In every blue zone, sleep is not just an individual pursuit, but a shared value. Families eat together, wind down together, and respect each other's need for quiet and rest. Maybe it's time we all took a page from their book and made sleep a family affair. Turn off the TV a little earlier, dim the lights, and spend a few minutes talking or reading together. You might be surprised at how much closer you feel and how much better you sleep. Here's a debate point for you. Should healthcare providers prescribe sleep routines as seriously as they prescribe medication? Imagine leaving your doctor's office with a personalized sleep plan, complete with bedtime rituals and morning routines. Would it make a difference? I believe it would. After all, what's the point of living longer if you're too tired to enjoy it? And for one last lighthearted moment, why did the blanket get promoted? Because it was always covering for everyone else. All right, I promise. That's the last one, unless you ask for an encore. So, as you prepare to turn out the lights tonight, remember, you have the power to change your nights, and with them, your days. Start small. Pick one ritual, one new habit, and give it a try for 2 weeks. Notice how you feel. Adjust as needed. And don't be afraid to ask for help from your doctor, your family, or even from me, right here in the comments. You deserve restful nights and joyful mornings. You deserve to wake up feeling refreshed, not exhausted. And you deserve to live every year you're given with energy, clarity, and peace. Now, as the night deepens and the world grows quiet, let's take a deep breath together. Inhale, hold, and exhale slowly. Let your worries drift away, like leaves on a gentle stream. Tomorrow is a new day, and tonight is your chance to begin again. As we bring our journey to a close, let's slow everything down. Let the words settle softly, like dust motes in a shaft of morning light. Tonight, we've wandered through the science and the stories of sleep, from the golden hour of bedtime to the gentle rituals that can transform your nights. We've peeked into the bedrooms of the world's oldest people, borrowed their secrets, and laughed together at a few sleepy jokes. But more than anything, I hope you felt a sense of possibility, a gentle nudge that, no matter your age or your past habits, restful sleep is still within your reach. Remember, the path to better sleep is not a sprint, but a slow, winding walk. It's about listening to your body's cues, honoring the rhythms that have guided humans for centuries, and giving yourself permission to rest. Maybe tonight you'll try dimming the lights a little earlier, or perhaps you'll swap your late-night TV for a quiet conversation or a few pages of a book. Maybe you'll finally move your bedtime closer to that golden window, or simply let go of the pressure to sleep and allow yourself to rest. however imperfectly. If you find yourself awake in the small hours, don't be discouraged. Even the best sleepers have restless nights. What matters is your willingness to keep trying, to keep adjusting, and to treat yourself with kindness over time. These small changes add up, and you may find yourself waking with more energy, a clearer mind, and a lighter heart. So, as you drift off tonight, know that you are not alone. Across the world, others are on the same journey, seeking rest, seeking renewal, seeking a little more life in every day. May your sleep be deep, your dreams be sweet, and your mornings bright. End of the script. Good night.